Hi, this is Vicki with craftingforfun.blogspot.com. Today I want to show you how I made this little purse invitation. It has a ribbon handle. This is the back. It's smooth on the back and it has been embossed with some raised detail on the front. It has a little flower embellishment. It fits in a standard A2 size envelope and doesn't require any additional postage because it's not got any additional bulk or thickness. On the inside, I'm going to print my information on the computer and cut it out using a framelit so that my information will be a cute shape to add some additional detail to my project. And I used a plain black ribbon for my handle. To create this card, I began with a piece of standard cardstock. This cardstock measures 8 1/2 inches by 4 inches and it has been scored at 4 1/4 and folded in half. So this gave me a 4 1/4 by 4 inch card, and I'm going to cut that on my paper cutter to create my purse shape. So let me grab my paper cutter and I'll come back and show you how to make the purse. Okay, now I have my standard paper cutter here and my folded piece of black cardstock. What I'm going to want to do is know where my folded edge is. I'm going to move my blade guide back. I'm going to place my folded edge of my cardstock at the top, and I'm going to locate the point on the cutting line, and I'm going to put the opposite corner on the 1/2 inch mark. So the open corner is on the 1/2 inch mark, the folded corner is on the cutting line. I'm going to put my blade guide down. I'm going to hold everything securely in place and I'm going to cut. Now I'm cutting through 2 layers of paper, so I need to press very firmly, and that will take my 2 pieces off. And if you have a little extra there, you may need to take your scissors and go back and trim. Then I'm going to flip it over, and again with my folded edge on my cutting line and my open edge on the 1/2 inch mark, 1/2 and the cutting line, I am going to run my blade back and forth, pressing firmly, and then I'll take off my pieces, and that will give me my basic purse shape. And like I said, I may go back and clean up some little edges with my scissors, not to worry about that. Okay, now the next thing you'll want to do is pick an embossing folder that you like. I am using a Cuttlebug folder called Bit of Paisley, and I usually label mine on the back side. And I'm going to open my card up and I'm going to insert 1/2 of it inside of my embossing folder. The other half will just be hanging out of the back, and I will run that through my embossing machine to emboss my purse shape. While I have my embossing machine out, I'm going to also need to cut some additional pieces. Let me grab my framelits and I'll show you what you'll need to do with that. This is a set of framelits. Framelits are very similar to spellbinders. They're available from Stampin' Up, and I have mine stored inside of a clear case. This labels set is the one that I use to create my purse top, but you could use a similar shape that you might have in your own stash. And I used not the largest, not the second largest, but the third largest end to cut a piece of pink cardstock to make the top of my purse. The piece that I used for the inside was actually the next one in for the white paper. So I'm going to cut those while I have my big shot out. So I'm going to emboss this, and I'm going to cut my paper for my purse top. And I'll be right back, and I'll show you how to assemble the purse. Okay, I'm back. I have embossed my purse shape using my paisley pattern. I don't know if you can see that detail. And I have cut using a piece of pink passion cardstock, and this framelit I have cut the shape for the top of my purse. Now I want to score it. So this is my scoring tool. This happens to be the Stampin' Up! Scoring tool, but the Martha Stewart scoring tool works great as well. There's a point on either side of this piece. What I'm doing is lining this point up with about the 2 inch mark here on my scoring tool, and I'm going to hold that in place, and then I'm going to go over to about 1 5/8 and I'm going to score straight down for a nice good sharp score line. And then I'm going to fold that piece in half. Now it may not be exactly in half. One half may be slightly larger than the other, but for this particular project it doesn't matter that it is exactly the same on both sides, because one half of this, or one portion of this, will be on the back of the purse and the other portion will be on the front, and you can't see the front and back at the same time. So it doesn't truly matter that it is exactly equal. I'm going to want to, at this point, put the holes in my piece so that I can insert the ribbon handle. So I'm going to take my piece, and I have my fold line, and I am using a hole punch, the hole punch on my Crop-A-Dile, but you could use any hole punch that you have, and I'm going to punch a hole about, a 1/4 of an inch in from the end, right over that score line on both sides, just like that. And then I am going to use a piece of 5/8 inch black ribbon. Let me grab my ribbon and I'll show you how we're going to insert the handle and finish the embellishment for the front before we assemble our purse. I'll be right back. I have a piece of black 5/8 inch ribbon. The piece that I used in my original purse was about 11 inches long, and you'll notice that I have cut the ends very sharply pointed. What I'm going to do is that this is the right side, or the side that I want to be facing out. I'm going to insert my ribbon from the outside towards the center, and then I'm going to make sure that I kind of straighten it around, and then I'm going to take my other end and I'm going to make sure that my ribbon is not twisted or turned, and I'm going to do the same thing with the other end, as I'm just going to insert it through, pull it to the back side, and kind of straighten everything up. And I have about, maybe 3/4 of an inch or an inch pulled around to the back side, and the rest of my handle is just up. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to lay my top down, and I'm going to run a line of adhesive. I just run tape, and then I'm going to stick my ribbon handles down. Now it doesn't matter which side you go to, in the end it's going to all be covered up anyway. So that just gives me my handle attached to my top. But now I want to make the embellishment for the front of my card. What I did was I used a flower punch for this, and I punched, just from some scraps of black cardstock, 3 of these little flower shapes. I'm going to set my punch aside. Now, just to make it easy for myself so things didn't shift around while I was working with them, I decided to glue my flower pieces together. This step is completely optional. I just put a tiny, tiny dot of glue on 2 of those. I'm going to take one and I'm going to stack it on top of the other one, just kind of offsetting the petals. And then I'm going to take the third one, which has no adhesive on it, I'm going to put it on top and offset it again. Now all 3 of my flower shapes are stuck together. Now I'm going to take that piece, and I would of course let it dry if this were actually my ones I was making at home. I would let that dry thoroughly. Place it on top of the purse top and make sure that it's kind of lined up with this point here. And again, it doesn't matter which side you choose to be the front or the back, and punch a hole with your paper piercer right through the center. I kind of wiggle it around, and then I'm using a mini brad that's in the same pink color as my paper. Oops, because it's inexpensive and it just adds a little pop of color in the middle of that flower. And I'm going to go ahead and pull that out and spread the edges of my brad back. Now we're going to kind of plump that flower up in a minute, but for now we're just going to leave it flat. I'm going to lay my top back down, and I can work with it best when it's opened up flat like this, and I'm going to apply a generous amount of adhesive all over the inside of this flap. You could use sticky tape, you could use score tape, but I do recommend a very strong adhesive, because this is what's actually going to hold everything together. So I have adhesive all over this. Now this is my front because it has my flower, and I'm going to bring back my purse shape. I'm going to sandwich it between, and I'm going to make sure that it's lined up so that it's good and centered, and then I'm just going to press that down. Okay, now the flower is just a flat embellishment now, which isn't nearly as interesting as when you take those little petals on the flower and kind of plump them up. So you can kind of pick them up with your fingernail, and there's several layers of them, and give that flower a whole lot more dimension, and it looks way cuter when those petals are kind of lifted up. I don't know if you can see that. The only thing left to do to complete this card is to open it up and add your information on the inside, and that can be done last. So I hope you enjoyed this project. If you have any questions, you can always email me at craftingforfun@gmail.com. Thank you very much.